welcome. This is Altair reporting for Premier Magazine live from ISC in Frankfurt. And we're talking here with Bill Nitzberg from Altair.
Hi, thanks very much for having me.
Okay. I heard you had several new announcements to make.
We do. We made three really actually kind of exciting announcements here at ISC. The first of which is that you can now download an open source licensed version of PBS Pro. And in fact, we announced that on Monday, and by Tuesday, we actually had our first contributor from outside of Altair, which is like super amazing. The second announcement is about, the second and third announcement are about two products that are actually coming out. They'll be in beta in the next couple of months. So one is a simulator for PBS and for HPC clusters, and the other one is PBS Cloud Manager, a product that lets you build full appliances, hardware, middleware, software, in the cloud, AWS and Azure, as well as on-premise.
If we go to the first point, so open source, what does it exactly mean?
I've spent many years now in the HPC industry, and it turns out that the HPC world, in our opinion, is really split between sort of the public sector and the private sector. And in the HPC space in particular, there's probably a dozen workload managers. And I feel like there's been a lot of churn and a lot of effort put into workload management, but none of them, why are there really a dozen? It's because nobody can actually take over one of these spaces or the other and actually fulfill the full needs of both the public and the private sector at the same time. The best way to do that is with sort of de facto standards. But the reason that you can't is in the public sector, the folks playing their universities and research labs, they're risk takers, they're innovators, they're natural collaborators, whereas in the private sector, they just want tools to do a job, they're not really interested in taking risks, and they're actually natural competitors. And what this led to is that in the public sector, open source has become a real preference, and in the private sector, commercial software is not only sometimes a preference, but actually a real requirement for what they're doing. And we wanted to be able to provide something that actually bridged the gap between these two worlds so that you could get one thing that could play both in the private sector, in the public sector, that's over here, and in the private sector. So actually what we announced and what we're delivering is PBS Professional dual licensed. So there's an open source license for PBS Pro, but there's also, we're continuing our commercial license for all of our commercial customers. So for them, nothing changes. But we're using a common core. So by having a single common core, not a stripped down version, not a limited version, we can actually then take all of the community innovations that get done in the private sector, we can move those over, in the public sector, move those over to the private sector. And we can also take some of the enterprise innovations that happen in the private sector and move them back. And we can really try to finally have something where there's the economy of scale, where the bulk of the HPC effort can go into sort of one thing that'll help the whole community instead of have sort of two separate communities that are working independently. And so that's the same reason that we're actually really happy about what the Open HPC effort is doing. We're a founding member of Open HPC, and it's a similar. It's driven by a similar mission, which is to try to build a de facto standard that we can use to cross and marry the entire HPC community and really focus energy in one direction instead of focusing energy in all sorts of different directions. And with that, we think, I personally think, I'm even taking off my Altair hat, that this is a fantastic opportunity for the HPC community.
When I understand correctly, so if you have a paid license, you can get things like support, etc. Is that the idea? So
we're going to offer support, both commercial support for actually both versions, but we will still offer a commercial license. So what comes with the commercial license is the usual legal stuff, indemnification, everything else. We also have a full set of commercial tools, and so that's actually a good segue into the other two things that we announced, which will be part of the enterprise tool set that you can get from Altair, which are, in addition to the existing commercial tools that we have for end user end user engineer and end user scientist portals for job submission and especially for remote visualization, which is actually really important. We're adding more tools for the HPC administrator, and that's where the PBS simulator comes in. So the PBS simulator is actually a new thing. It's actually really exciting. We're getting a lot of really good feedback from people we've talked to. It lets you try things out. So you can actually imagine you're running your HPC system and you're not getting the service level you want. Say for your high priority queue, it's taking too long for jobs to start. You can actually go to the simulator, you can push, please take a snapshot of my live system. Now, let me make some modifications in the live system, on my simulated system. I'm going to turn preemption on, because I think I might want to use preemption in order to bring down the job turnaround time. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's actually going to work. So let me try that out in a simulated world. So I'll configure a simulated PBS system, and I'll say, now run last month's workload. And I want to compare. So now run last month's workload in both what happened, last month for real, and versus the simulated one with preemption. Put them together. Did preemption actually fix my problem and achieve the goal I was looking for? Okay, it did. But also, did it mess something else up? Is it like a good thing to do? Because maybe everything else on the system doesn't happen the way I want it to. And so you'll be able to use the simulator to be able to actually do these sort of what if tests. But even more than that, you can use it to actually take to, for example, a configuration board or upper management, and you can say, hey, we not only think this might be a good idea, but look, it actually pans out.
So that is the second thing, the simulator. And what's your third announcement?
The third thing that we've actually announced here, and also going to be released in beta next month or two, is a product called PBS Cloud Manager. And that's actually a really targeted product at HPC appliances. So building HPC appliances both in the public cloud, so in Amazon, AWS, and in Azure, as well as building appliances on your local on-premise hardware. And an HPC appliance is where you define in an abstract way, the hardware that you need and how it's connected together with storage and network, as well as the middleware that you want deployed on that hardware, as well as the actual application. So for example, the manufacturing applications, the bio applications, the weather applications. So a solution architect does that part in a really nice, natural way in a GUI. And then the other side of Cloud Manager allows either anybody, but even up to the end user engineer to say, well, great, I'm ready to do some CFD work, and I need a CFD appliance. I don't know anything about IT, and I want one. Click a button, say, well, actually, I could use 5 implicit nodes and 6 explicit nodes and 2 GPU nodes, because the appliance is a little bit configurable, but I don't need to know anything about HPC. I'm talking in my own language. And I said, please make that, and the option for Azure, say, is on there, on Azure. And I get back a web address. Now I can connect. I have a job portal. I can do remote visualization. Everything is up and running, super turnkey, and I don't have to worry about anything.
But that's a product that will come out. It's not yet available.
You can join the PBS Pro open source community and download the software right now at pbspro.org. The PBS Simulator and PBS Cloud Manager, we're announcing that they're coming out. Please talk to us if you want to see, if you want early access. The beta will start for both of those in the coming couple of months.
Thank you very much for this interview.
Wow, thanks a lot. ISC has been great.
For Premier Magazine, this was Altair reporting.